haven't made one of these in a while, so this is gonna be a few weeks all crammed into one video. But I will try not to talk too extensively about any of these. I heard a whole lot in the last 3 weeks. A lot of really good stuff, honestly. The first book I read was Leaving Richards Valley by Michael DeForge from Drawn and Quarterly Press. DeForge, kind of a titan of Canadian indie comics and indie comics in general, in both the Americas and in Western Europe. He's kind of a defining figure in the indie comic scene, known for his kind of very simplistic character design, and his kind of 4-panel signature layout. Leaving Richards Valley, kind of a fat, beautiful book. It's fat, but very short and square because it's 2x2 panels about cult of animals and humans, who can speak to each other in this world. Animals and humans can speak to each other. It's this cult that lives in a small municipal park in Toronto, and it's about several of these animals who decide to leave the cult, and have to make it in real life. It is really cute. The animals are really cute. There's a lot of really cute little moments. It's one of the funniest books I've read in a long time. It's not a gag comic despite the 4-panel format, but it is just so kind of witty and hilarious and insightful. But I think more than anything else, it's a very kind of melancholic story about how we find community, how we lose community, how we end up alone and without community, how we are harmed by community as well as we are helped by it. And I think DeForge's cartooning does a really good job of depicting that visually. It's all in these really beautiful black and whites, with this kind of Xeroxy, risography vibe to it. It might be Riso. DeForge has this very, very specific kind of visual language, and it really fits with the emotional atmosphere that the story and characterization builds in the book. I think he's a very divisive cartoonist for a lot of people. You either kind of love him or hate him in terms of his style, the stories that he makes. It's very literary comics that he makes. They're not dense. You could sit down and read this in a sitting fairly easily, I think, if you wanted to. I didn't, just because it's a lot of this very specific comic, and it's not exactly light fare. But I think if you are a fan of kind of what Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics put out on their more indie or literary side, instead of say Fantagraphics is Kyle Barks, yeah, Kyle Barks Library, or Peanuts Library or something. If you're or the Steranko collection they just published. If you're less of a fan of that stuff and more of a fan of their novels, you'll probably like this. You've probably at least heard of Michael DeForge. I think he has a new collection of short stories coming out soon, as well, which I think is very exciting for Michael DeForge fans everywhere. This is the first DeForge book that I've read, and it was really incredible, honestly. One of the best novels that I've read all year. One of the best comics I've read all year. I found myself laughing out loud. The next book I read was Sports is Hell by Ben Passmore. Sports is Hell is a short magazine format, square bound comic by Ben Passmore, who's probably best known for his most recent work on Black Arms to Hold You Up, which is a history of black armed resistance in America, which was also an excellent book. That's from Pantheon. Sports as Hell is or was published by the defunct Storefront and declining publisher Silver Sprocket, San Francisco based publisher Silver Sprocket. Sports as Hell is kind of a magical realist, surreal, yet still very grounded look at race riots in America. It basically depicts racial divisions in a Super Bowl riot that breaks out in a city. I'm forgetting which city. It's what I was thinking of when I read this was the riot scene in Invisible Man, where the main character hides underneath the sewers, and you've got these like kind of historical figures running through the smoke on horseback and stuff, and all this crazy violence happening, and it's like really horrifying and brutal, and at the same time so strange in its absurdity and its horror, and so surreal in its kind of sense of reality and in the bounds of reality. I think this is kind of like some of the chapters in Invisible Man. It's I think it would have been good if it were longer, but I also think it's good that it's as short as it is. I do think this is like the best that his drawing has been that I've seen from anything, flat out. I think it's so good. This was also really excellent. I don't have much to say about it. It's pretty short, and you should go read it. Passmore's great. He's like one of the less appreciated independent cartoonists working now, but he's really amazing. Shadow of the Batgirl is the next one by Sarah Kuhn. Short YA novel about Batgirl, Cassandra Cain Batgirl. It's good. I think it's fun if you're a fan of that character, looking to learn more about that character, or if you were a young adult who just wants to read about a Bat family member. Beautiful art, really touching writing. Nice to see characters of color appearing in superhero comics targeted towards younger folks in ways that don't feel fetishistic or stupid. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, big fan of the DC YA stuff. Next book is Jules Gill Peterson's A Short History of Transmisogyny. This was excellent. I was very, very happy to have read this. It's a short book. It is not theory heavy, although it is a scholarly text, but it's not academic. Like, anyone could read it and get something out of it. Very, very focused on kind of trans feminized people of color throughout history. A post-colonial look on what transgender even means. I think what's really fascinating here is that Gil Peterson is moving back in time to before the identitarian label of transgender existed, and examining the origins of that label, and then how that label is used both as a methodology for social work and activism, and also how it's used as a racist and transmisogynistic tool to homogenize what used to be very distinct gender identities and gender expressions. And so she talks about two-spirit folks in North America. She talks about hijras in India, in pre- and post-colonial India. She talks about street queens in 20th century United States. She talks about travestis in South America and Brazil. And she talks about antebellum black female impersonators, trans feminized people, and really talks about the whys of transmisogyny. And she's really interested not in uh, sociologically engaging with the realities of like trans sex work and transmisogyny, but she's more interested in engaging with the roots of these phenomena, which are not things that are studied normally. Normally, I think studies of both transmisogyny and transsex work are very engaged with um, kind of the horrific realities of it and the violence inflicted on individuals, but are not interested in kind of engaging with the cultural reasons that these things exist and the financial reasons that these things exist and the social roots of these things. Really good book. It's also short. It can't be more than like 200 pages. It's probably like 170 pages or something. I think it's a verso book. Yeah, really good. I think anyone who's interested in queer history should read this book. It, I think, will kind of shift people's perspectives on kind of what transgender identity means and the evolution of gender identity as a concept in the post-colonial space. Yeah, really good. Big fan. I'm back from doing my laundry. The next book I read is Mimi Haddon's What is Post-Punk? Genre and Identity in Avant-Garde Popular Music, 1977 to 1982. I read this for my Substack series on post-punk superheroics in 90s comic books and Vertigo specifically. I think this is a really good primer and really good kind of like critical and theoretical analysis of both the post-punk culture and also the technical music that was a part of it. I think if you're curious about post-punk and curious about the social and political circumstances and forces that shaped post-punk and shaped it as a community and as a musical force, this is a really good book for you. There is theory present in this, but it is not the driving aspect of the book. This is very much a book of like historiography and musical criticism, and it pulls a lot from primary sources, so like music journalism and criticism of the time, rather than kind of the more secondary and tertiary sources of like theorists writing about stuff posthumously, writing about movements posthumously. Yeah, this was good. I don't really have much to say about it. It's if you're interested in researching it, it's really good too. Like if you're interested in researching post-punk, that is, I think it's a really good resource. The next thing I read was the James Tynion Batman Rise and Fall of Batman omnibus, which is like, God, it's like 1,400 pages of Batman or something. It was really good. The only bad part of this omnibus is that they had to include the Tom King Batman Rebirth Monster Men story arc in it, which takes up like maybe a fifth of the omnibus, just because it's kind of canonically important for what's going on in the story at the time. The art in it is incredible. I mean, it's a whole bunch of different artists because it's Tynion's whole run on this particular Detective Comics omnibus. It's really focused on Batwoman. So if you are reading the new Batwoman series right now, or if you're thinking about starting it with Greg Rucka and Danny writing, I think this is a really good primer for it, especially if you're not super inspired to read Batwoman Elegy, which is Rucka's kind of seminal run on Batwoman before this current DC Next Level run. It really focuses on her and her father and her motivations as a really central figure of the Bat family, which I think is never really the case for most Batman runs. I think she's kind of this like majorly overlooked Bat family figure, largely because I think she's motivated so differently than the rest of them, and I think her kind of morals and ethics are not super suited for cooperation with pretty much any of the Bat family. But it was cool to see her be like a really deeply delved into and developed character in this run, and I think Tinian does right by her. Tinian continues to do a shockingly amazing job writing queer female characters. He's the best male comic book writer in the business, writing queer female characters and trans characters without being either a woman or trans himself. This is really good. I think if you're looking for a Batman run to like sit down and read all of, this is the one that I would recommend, along with like Grant Morrison's Batman, like Batman Eternal, and a few other things. But this was excellent. Yeah, this was great. I read a bunch of the first chunk of Sandman, but I don't really want to talk about that. It's good. Buy it used. Don't give money to Neil Gaiman. He's a monster. Screw him. I read Alex Espinosa's Cruising, which is a history of cruising in the U.S. from, well, we're not even in the U.S. I mean, there's a couple chapters on, like, what the political and social structures of gay sex were like in ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and then he gets pretty quickly into what modern gay sex looked like in Western Europe and the United States from like maybe the 18th century onward, so like 1700s on. He might go earlier. It's really interesting. It's kind of very specifically written not to be theory. It's just supposed to be like about cruising and how cruising happened and continues to happen. And it's kind of part history, part memoir, as so many queer histories are. This is really good. I think it's like not mind blowing, you know, and I think like if you're already familiar with that realm of queer and specifically gay male culture, this is like not a great, or not necessarily not great, but this is not a necessary read for you. You're not going to find like information here that you would never have found anywhere else, or that you wouldn't already know. But it's really enjoyable, and it's also really short. I have it right here. It's just a little guy. Just a little guy. Yeah, interesting book though. It's a staff pick of a friend of mine at, friend and coworker of mine at City Lights. It's good. I like it. Next book is Anouk Ricard's Animan. This was fine. It got a lot of press when it came out. I think, yeah, it's a Fanto book, I want to say. I don't know, it's fine. It felt like reading kind of like a mid-kids comic. It's really short, and it's like $30 or something, because it's a hardcover. I just, like, don't think it's worth the money. It definitely wasn't worth the hype. It's, like, silly and funny at times and charming, but, like, I would have never bought this if I didn't work at a comic book store and could just pick it up and read it on my break or something. Because it took me, like, 20 minutes to read too. It's a really flimsy hardcover that you're gonna drop $30 on, read once, and then never come back to. should have been a Swipe comic. I was kind of disappointed by this just because Fantagraphics had been really pushing it. I'm curious if this cartoonist Anouk like has other stuff that's better, that's like harder to translate, or if the rights are tied up somewhere. Because I think it's originally written in French. But yeah, it's like a kind of quirky indie take on a superhero. Uh, and it's fine. It's whatever. That's what I read this week. Yeah.